Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we're going to be taking a deep dive look into the astrological transits of February 5th to February 11th. Just got a quick reminder for those that haven't listened to my full month ahead forecast that I did already a couple days ago for the month of February. I am running a special on my Synastry readings, business partnership readings, generational trauma readings, and parent-child, connection readings. So I'm not going to do a full breakdown on this one. I did a very long breakdown on the month ahead forecast, just kind of covering those types of different things. So if you want to book a one-on-one with me for a synastry reading, so a relationship reading, an hour-long one-on-one for that is $35, and a 90-minute session is $55. So I'm not going to go real heavy on that from the beginning. I wanted to really focus more on where we're going into this week. Some of the energies from this last week kind of like rounded us into a level of decision making that's going to really come through this next week. And it really kind of came down to how the energies of the last few days of the business week going into the weekend have played out for you. We were in the last few days, and I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon, actually. So at this time that I'm recording it, Mercury is still in the sign of Capricorn. But overnight, tonight, going into the new week that we'll be going into, Mercury is going to go into Aquarius. And I had said last week, as we got into parts of the weekend, we were needing to wrap our head around certain changes and how we're going to voice those changes, how we're going to deal with those changes. And many, many people had to either, based off the human effect, have some very hard conversations this weekend, or you're about to be having hard conversations as we go into Monday and Tuesday. And the hard conversations have to do with how we're not doing something anymore and wrapping our head around how we're going to be moving forward from here. And a lot of that has to do with either we just went through an ending. Some of us, it was a very small, mundane situation over the weekend. For others, it was, something where we had to wrap our head around how we start doing something different. And that's a part of the new week. But we really had to take a moment for consideration. And we're going into a week that is going to be very profound in a long-term new beginning in more than one way. Some of us are going to be facing a fear, facing something that we have never wanted to do before. We're going to have a very hard conversation with somebody that can be triggering or frustrating in a multitude of ways. But others of us are going to feel a whole new sense of personal power in how we take steps into a new change. And if you are somebody that does not like change, guess what, babies? This ain't your week, because that's all this week is change. I started meditating on the notes for this episode last night. And I was in download mode, so I wasn't getting everything. I only did so many notes. And if you listen to the month ahead forecast, I said, once we get into parts of this week, like one part of the transit feels like one thing, but then there's a pocket of this week that all feels like it's a run-on of a situation, just back to back to back to back to back. And that stands true even as I broke down the transits even more from the month ahead forecast. And when I was meditating last night, a lot of what I was focused on at first was like Mercury's entry into Aquarius and that conjunction to Pluto. And many of us are going to be dealing with some type of like facing of a power dynamic, whether it's taking back personal power, voicing a personal power, or overcoming something. And for many of us, that overcoming is not new energy. For a lot of us, it is new direction and new steps based off of old situations, of an old dynamic that we've been struggling with. We have long-term changes coming through this week. Now, the dream energy has still been crazy. I've said that on a couple podcasts. I'm still saying it now. All of these prolonged energies that are hitting Neptune and Pluto, the way that they have been very much activating our mind and that dream energy literally since December. That stands true going into this week. But what we're also going to feel is the physical actions and activities that are going to start to manifest from some of that dream energy. Now, some of us, we dream things before they happen. That's me. I do that all the time. Others, we have metaphorical dreams that we have to like decipher a little bit more, that's been letting us know certain aspects of things that we're about to hit and are about to come. And some elements of that will be also playing out this week. The dream energy that I had last night was very, very specific. And it was telling me about something that is about to take off, about to change, literally about to launch. And the song that I started hearing as I woke up this morning was not just a song that I had actually heard this time around in current meditation, but it actually came through also in a specific transit that happened about 2 months ago. That was the Venus opposition to Uranus. And this week, we will have Venus in a trine to Uranus. The song that I was hearing, for those that get interested in these types of things, is an 80s hair metal band song by a band called Def Leppard. And that song is called Rocket. And the song is still playing in my head as I'm talking to you guys right now. It'll probably be in my head all for the rest of the day. But there's a set of lyrics in that song that I want to actually read that kind of give me some layers to the dynamic of what's going to happen this week. And I want to read these lyrics real quick, and then I'll tell you some of my additional notes beyond just like the spiritual elements that I go through in the energetic breakdowns. So hear me out. The lyrics of the song, this is one of the opening lyrics. It's white lights, strange city, mad music all around, midnight, street magic, crazy people, crazy sound. And there's a very specific rhythm that all of this goes to that I keep hearing is a real dominant in my head. And I kept hearing this as I kept writing these notes out. And one of the things that kind of came through was, one, the elements of this week, based off of all of the transits to Uranus, all of the transits to Neptune. The ones to Uranus are trines and squares. The ones to Neptune is more of a sextile energy. But they're all happening so simultaneously, and they've got a prolonged energy. It makes me think that many people are going to be launching new things this week that are going to affect them for the long term. And I do feel that way for a lot of people. However, not everybody is launching something new this week. And this also takes me to the other elements of what Neptune and Uranus can represent once put together. And I want to cover parts of this up front before I go into like the week ahead transits, because some of what I picked up front that I'm going to cover here up front, even though I picked it up throughout the weekly stuff, it doesn't always vibe with like that spiritual element of things that I try to keep things to, just kind of letting us know what those energies are. So I'm letting people kind of like hear these up front and knowing that this can also be a big part of how we go through this week. So when it comes to Uranian transits, a lot of those can be exciting, out of the box, quick, rapid changes, but a lot of times they can have to do with the internet and electrical. Whenever you add in the element of synthetic quality that can come through with Neptune, this also makes me think networks. And there can be things that occur this week that either require us to focus on changing something in our softwares. So this can have a lot more to do with like a business sense for a lot of people. Softwares, downloading new software, having to change something, having interruptions or disruptions in the electrical and the power grid, because I literally wrote down grid in my notes whenever I was meditating on this. Again, issues with network and the synthetic, so we can have issues with like cable and communications that can come through very, very unexpectedly. Sorry, I had to get a drink. Or something that's going to require us to like upgrade something in technology. That doesn't usually feed into a lot of the stuff whenever I go into like those energetic breakdowns of how certain things can make us quote, quote, feel. So I wanted to cover those things up front. Parts of the energy that we can go into this week can be something that triggers something that affects us in a actual like physical environmental way with our technology. My phone's right here. In this regard, it can be something along these lines: sudden issues with your computer, sudden issues in your software, anything is along these lines. Given how many things are going to, again, affect Neptune and Uranus simultaneously. I don't always pick up on stuff like that, but I felt like that was something I needed to talk about now, just to kind of like put that out there and make people a little bit more aware as we go through. But more and more, I feel like so many people are going to be making some very long-term decisions and starting some things for some people that's going to feel out of the blue. Starting some new things this week that, again, are going to affect us for the long term, because we end this week in a new moon in Aquarius. So we have a lot of transits that are leading up to that new moon, which tells me this is going to be a week of dynamic shifting and dynamic change. So again, if you're not somebody who likes change, sorry for you. The universe said it's time to start new things. I've been saying this for a while. I've had many, many one-on-ones and conversations with you guys in the lives. And it's so funny how often I hear like, but I don't like change. Like, then I make fun of you for it. Understand that the changes that are meant to come through this week, the things that are meant to set in this week, the things that are meant to occur, for some people, it's all going to be in one area of life. For some people, it's going to be a multitude of things that are all impacting you on an individual level. We're having individual lessons. We're having something that's, a shifting in our identity, shifting in our ego. We just are going into starting new things this week that are going to serve us for the long term. And a lot of what we start to set into this week, positive or negative, depending on how this is going in your personal life, can directly impact the energies that come throughout the rest of the month. Like there's a big portion of the energy that feels like this week sets the stage for everything that's going to happen throughout the rest of February. And if you know that going into the week, that means every time you see those dynamic changes, it's going to be easier to accept them in that moment. Now, some of us are going to be making some very heartfelt changes, desired changes, spiritual changes. Others are going to be feeling very compelled to make physical environment changes. But there is meant to be something new to come through this week. So let's get into the week. Let's get into Monday. Monday, February 5th. We are starting at 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We got a couple things going on at 6:30 in the morning. One, in the overnight hours from Sunday on the 4th going into the 5th at 11:11 p.m. Central Standard Time, so my time. That is when Mercury entered Aquarius. Many of us, we're not going to be dealing with something brand spanking new in the middle of the night. We're going to be dealing with it on Monday. So with that in mind, understand the human effect. Some people start something late on Sunday, but the majority of us, this is going to be on Monday. We got a couple things going on right here. One, the moon is in a sextile to the sun. Not heavy energy, supportive, hopeful, logical energies of how we're going to take a step forward. However, between 6:43 a.m. Central Standard Time and 6:57 a.m. Central Standard Time, Mercury will have its exact conjunction to Pluto. If we are dealing with something raw, brand new, first thing in the morning, that's okay. This can be a positive energy. And whenever it comes to Mercury and Pluto, I've got a couple different things that I kind of put together for this one. And again, for some people, this is going to be a very positive energy. For other people's, it's going to be the next layer, the next round of an existing situation that'll move into the new energy. Or it's going to be us encountering something completely brand new. So hear me out. I got a couple different ways that I wrote this out. One, again, encountering something or someone that has changed or transformed. Very positive energy. Moon conjunct Pluto. It can be a unexpected situation. You turn the corner and there somebody is. You're going into the gas station to get your morning coffee because you're on your way to work on Monday, and you run into somebody you hadn't seen in a long time. And at first it's a very encounter, but you can see a change. For some people, you don't see the change at all, and it's just a triggering encounter. Understand that both are a possibility. Two, now this part really doesn't play into the exact 6:30 a.m. situation because we are in this energy all day on Monday. Two, voicing a recent discovery, trauma, event, fear, or power struggle to somebody new that they are not aware of the situation. And this is not something that I would say necessarily happen at 6:30 a.m. This is something that could happen anywhere on Monday. So understand that that's a part of the energy. Some of us are going to be talking about recent events, especially those recent events that can tie back to, one, the Mercury retrograde and the things that revealed themselves to us during that timeline. And two, the Sun-Pluto conjunction that happened between January 19th and January 21st. Because for some of us, it was exactly the Sun-Pluto conjunction that made us aware of something. So those two dynamics can be a part of what we're voicing and communicating in this moment, on this day. 3, expressing recent communications, plans, strategies, and encounters that again tie back to those events. Yeah, we're going to be doing this differently from now on. I'm not going to be working with so-and-so anymore. I'm not doing business with this person anymore. And that can be a big portion of the energy. And whenever you're telling whoever you tell this to, in that moment, there can be support, but there's also the awareness that, oh, well, that's going to lead to other changes too. 4, coordinating the next plan, step, change in our own personal power or our own personal growth. I like this energy better. I feel like more and more people are starting to encounter the transformational energy whenever it comes to Pluto. Many of us are wanting to take more control back in our lives and not be so subject to other people's ideas, needs, and opinions. And this can be literally the next step in how we are seen and how we are transforming something, again, tied to our own personal strength and our own personal power. Number 5, and this one kind of, I feel like if it's going to happen, it's going to happen a little bit later in the day. Again, not so much 6:30 in the morning. And that is expressing where a connection is no longer acceptable. It's no longer an option. It's no longer a desire. Or expressing that we have no longer been able to connect with somebody. Yeah, I can't get a hold of so-and-so. I don't know what's going on. So for some of us, we can be very, very aware that we can't connect. We can't get a hold of somebody. And in the moment, we might not actually understand that. We might not know exactly why. And that might take a few more days to be understood, given the way the transits are laying out. So make that part very, very clear. Again, the Mercury-Pluto conjunction, it is the most exact, very, very early in the morning, but we are in this energy all day. So the idea of what we start to encounter and the communication that we're having, the conversations that we're having, the run-ins with people unexpectedly that we can have, they can play out the human effect at any time of day. And I'm making you very, very aware of that from the beginning. This is how we are starting the week. After the moon hits the sextile to the sun, it will go into a quincunx with Uranus. That's going to be roughly between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 11:30. You can see the moon is at 19 degrees, 18 minutes. Here's Uranus at 19 degrees, 7 minutes. I don't always harp on the quincunxes. I do whenever I feel like they're going to play into something that's about to happen. Considering we are days away from Venus trine Uranus, the sun square Uranus, and a new moon squaring Uranus, in this moment, we can be aware, again, of connections that are not being made, that are no longer in play, that we're no longer seeing eye to eye with. And that is what's leading us into the new connections that are going to happen later in the week. So I want to bring up this quincunx in this moment because we can have that conversation with somebody right around the midday going, yeah, I'm just not doing business with them anymore. It's not a heavy thing. There's nothing crazy about it. But for some people, and it's just sometimes, or for some people all the way around, when they hear that, it does turn into something bigger. And I have a feeling for some people, this situation can turn into something bigger. So even though it's not big in the moment, just making everybody aware. Okay. The only other thing that's happening on Monday, and it starts on Monday, it goes into Tuesday, is going to be when we get into the evening time when the moon is going to square Neptune. Pause this. Now, I don't usually mind when the moon squares Neptune. It feels like we can be like questioning something we don't know, questioning something that isn't necessarily something that we've dealt with before. Questioning the effects of something, because there's always some element of Neptune where there can be an effect. There can be something tied to like fraud or lies or something along those lines. There can also be like an action that starts, hear me out on this one, starts on Monday that has a deeper unintended effect. And the reason is when the moon hits this square to Neptune, Mars is also entering a sextile to Neptune. And Mars is sextile to Neptune. We feel this all week. It doesn't actually go exact until Wednesday. So there can be something in the moment that's very, very small that whenever we hear it, it's something we've never heard before. And it kind of lingers us into like going into research mode. Or there's some part of us that we're questioning a situation, questioning an act because it doesn't sound right. And again, it leads us into a research mode, but it's more like investigative mode. And it makes us search for new things. There's sometimes we can learn something about ourselves. Like you get your first chart reading and like, oh my God, I'd never heard that before. And suddenly you want to go study this one transit over and over again. You have no idea why. I've seen people do that before. I've gone down the rabbit hole before, so it happens. But there is an energy here where we are questioning or looking into something, learning about something that is going to lead to more of an action or more feeding into our desires as the week progresses. So be aware of what's going on whenever it comes to Monday evening, because again, a lot of the energies of this week are going to lead to continuous effect. This feels like a big part of that. And with the Mercury-Pluto conjunction happening on Monday, again, we could be hearing about something that seems very troubling at the moment that makes us do research. Like, I never knew that he could be that kind of person. I never knew that he could take that type of thing. We should do a background check. Now, I'm not saying this on the employer sense. If you were dealing with something with an employee, you should do a background check before you hired. But sometimes you hear something about a friend's boyfriend or a friend's girlfriend, and then you suddenly want to go research. Not all of us go and do a background check on our friends. Maybe more of us should. And this could be something where, again, we find more energy, we find out more stuff. There's some kind of internal questioning that leads to more things. There's some kind of effect that can set in whenever it comes to the later part of Monday. And again, going into Tuesday. Now, when it comes to the overnight hours of Monday going into Tuesday, the dream energy can be very, very crazy. We have the moon, again, in that square to Neptune, while Mercury's entering the sextile. Very lucid, active dream energy. And these are the types of dreams that can manifest very, very quickly into real life things. So be aware of your dream energy too when it comes to the overnight hours of Monday into Tuesday. The exact moon square to Neptune is between 10 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So it is a carryover energy. And after the moon square to Neptune, there's nothing really going on until we get to the next morning. No big deal. At 6:09 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to enter Capricorn. So we got that right here, 0 degrees, 12 minutes. We're just a few minutes into it. Mars and Neptune sextile is going to be building all day. Doesn't go exact until Wednesday, but it can still be something that's feeding into our desire. There's going to be a feeding into certain inspiration. There's a lot of feeding energy of what's about to hit. So we can feel very, very restless when it comes to the energy of Tuesday. Physically restless, mentally restless. Like we can feel a restlessness whenever we're anticipating something's about to happen or something's about to come in. And I do feel like there's going to be a restless energy to Tuesday. There's no heavy energy to this day that makes me feel like there's going to be a bunch of fighting or anything. I want to be clear about that. But there's still an energy here that speaks to a restlessness. Some of us will be on a very righteous energy, feeling like we have to get something put correct. We have to get something put solid. Again, when it comes to that spiritual and that intuitive energy, there can be a passionate energy that really starts to feed through in our bodies. Some of us might be feeling very compelled to take a very specific need or action. Regardless of outcome or consequence, we just feel this yearning to do something. And we could be feeling this energy all day on Tuesday. Some of us might actually act on it on Tuesday. Some of us might not act on it until Wednesday or Thursday, but you can be very much feeling compelled, magnetically drawn, pulled into a direction, feeling the effects of something, vibrating in many, many ways. Okay. After the moon goes into Capricorn, it doesn't really do anything until we get into the evening time. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this to about 6:30 because that covers both of them. So right here, we got two things going on. The first one, between 5 and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon in Saturn's sign is going to sextile Saturn simultaneously between 6:30 and 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's why I put this at 6:30. The moon will also trine Jupiter. So moon sextile Saturn, moon trine Jupiter. Saturn is in Jupiter's sign. So there's an element here of, again, some of us with the Mars Neptune energy that's building, and you can actually see it's a little bit more exact when we get into the evening time. Mars is at 25 degrees, 13 minutes. Here's Neptune, 25:57. As we get into the evening time, we can be feeling, again, drawn or compelled to do something, that it's time to do something. And we can even feel like optimistic and hopeful in this energy, very supported. There's a stability, at least now that the moon is in Capricorn. There's a stability based off of the fact that we're getting this sextile to Saturn and this trine to Jupiter. Optimistic, stable, responsible energy. There can also be an awareness of what's going on with our elders, what actions need to be taken on behalf or for an authority figure. Some of us, we are the authority figure, and we're talking to somebody else about their hopeful actions and what they're wanting to pursue, their desires in some way. Some of us, we're the Jupiterian person. We're teaching somebody in the moment about how to care for something and how to be more responsible for something. And we're trying to guide this overwhelming desire that's kind of coming through, because there is just this magnetic pull that's happening whenever it comes to Mars and Neptune. And not everybody is going to be able to recognize it. We had Mercury sextile Neptune last week, and that was a head pull. Again, we were trying to fathom how we worked through a situation. When it comes to Mars, we're going to feel an action and an activity. And in a lot of ways, with the moon, Venus, and Mars all being in this Saturnian, but yet instigative sign, that's cardinal sign, some of the actions that are going to come through this week, again, we can feel very, very compelled to take them. The other reason we can feel compelled to take is to start moving towards something this week. And this also happens on Tuesday. It just happened a little bit earlier in the day. Venus squares the notes. Venus will now go through her bending of the notes. And again, we are starting to move more of our energy towards the idea of gains with the North Node. Gains, direction, desire, drive, where we wish to succeed and accomplish things versus where we've needed to purge them. This is how we're going to continue to do better. There can be an internalized energy towards gains that clicks through, that happens, that is also feeding through these desires and also feeding through this need to learn something and to heal something and to stabilize something. For a lot of people, there's a tug and a pull when it comes to Tuesday of what's internally happening as well as what's externally manifesting. And again, there's a restlessness to Tuesday because so many of us can feel where something's about to happen, but it's not happening in that moment. I also like whenever the moon trines Jupiter because I feel like there's a luck energy there. So for so many of us, it's time for luck. So just put that part out there. Okay. Now, after the moon, Saturn, moon, Jupiter energy, there's no other direct transits to Tuesday. So again, a lot of internal restless energy, feeling like we're going to do some things, feeling like we need to do some things, but not all of us are going to be doing them on Tuesday. I feel like more people are more likely to do some stuff on Wednesday. So let's get into Wednesday. Wednesday has a little bit more of a busier energy to it, energetically busier, mentally busier, still feeling very stable. We're going to get into the afternoon. We're going to get into an energy and a transit that's going to happen again very simultaneously. So we got two things occurring here. One, between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Venus. Now, when the moon makes conjunctions to Venus, a lot of us can be very much aware or very curious about our appearance. We can have something about our physical form that we are very tuned into, or we can find ourselves like talking to somebody like that we have a magnetic attraction to. Now, hear me out on this one. This one's going to be a little hinky for some people. We can feel ourselves like desiring some things. And whatever that desire is for a lot of people can be something very out of the box, very out of the norm, because Venus and the moon in their conjunction are in a trine to Uranus. So trines are triangles. You can only have these between like elements: earth, 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 air, 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 water, 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 fire, fire, fire. This is earth to earth. cardinal to fixed. Uranus is in Venus's sign. The moon, in many, many ways, is coming through and it's offering support to Venus. You're going to do great. You look so great. I'm so proud of you. You're going to be able to do it. You're going to knock them off their seats. You're going to knock them out of their socks, whatever the verbiage is. Just go out there and do it. There can be discovery, connection, stimulation, support, a rebelliousness for some people. And the moon's Venus energy, like that's another level of support. Like, yeah, you should totally go out and try something new. You should totally go rock climbing. You should totally do this new thing that you've never thought of doing before. And again, we've got that energy, that magnetic energy of Mars to Neptune. So we can have something that comes through on Wednesday where we take an action towards a desire. And the one thing that I really want to say whenever it comes to Tuesday, Wednesday the most, Thursday and beyond, is we need to expect some unexpected things. Expect things to be out of the box. Expect some things to be very, very uncanny. Now, some of us are going to be feeling the need to reach out to somebody with Venus is trine to Uranus. And the moon's telling Venus, you should totally reach out. You should totally call them. You should totally talk to them. You have to do it. There's a reason you're feeling this way. You have to do this. And for some of us, we're going to reach out to somebody and that other person will not be anticipating it. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. Their reception to that reach out is their reception. Our way of handling somebody reaching out to us is our choice. And for some people, these connections that can come through, transit-wise, the most exact on Wednesday. But in actuality, it can happen on Tuesday, it can happen on Wednesday, Thursday, and beyond. For some of us, this is going to be a helpful, healing energy that's going to allow for us to voice some very deep-seated desires that we have had going on for some time. I've wanted to talk to you forever. I've wanted to set the story straight. I've wanted to fix this between us. I've wanted this. And for whatever reason, we haven't felt like we could do something. We could be a part of something. But again, there's something very stabilizing to this energy that speaks to how we work towards gains. And I'm really enjoying the energy when it comes to Wednesday. It is time to break out of our comfort zone. It is time to be seen. With the moon's conjunction to Venus, there's something very supportive. There's something very affirming that we can do something different, that we can take a leap. And there's more than one energy that speaks to leaps. Not necessarily all on Wednesday, but there is more energy that will speak to leaps. Mars and Neptune, again, is making us easier to take action and speak about our desires. Whatever we are speaking now that Mercury, now that Mercury is in Aquarius, this is how we felt for a long time. This is what we've thought for a long time. And some people will receive this energy really, really well. Other people, not so much. And the reason I'm saying that not so much element is while Venus is in the trine to Uranus, the sun is entering a square. So what can feel hopeful in the moment can feel very tested as well. Some of us will be Venus, some of us will be Uranus. And the thing about Uranus is as much as it can be as exciting, as much as it can be like that uncanny, rebellious energy, it's also a planet of independence. And some of us are starting new levels of independence now that Uranus is direct. We've only had Uranus direct for 2 weeks once we get to this point. So again, some of us are in new territory with an old person and we're trying to get something newly cemented, and it's going to take some work. This is exciting. This is out of the box. This is uninhibiting in many, many ways. And there, with the moon Venus, I also feel like there's going to be something that's very much tied to people's appearance and wanting to make sudden changes in our appearance. Suddenly we want to chop all our hair off. Suddenly we want to dye our hair blue. We want to go get that piercing. We want to go get a tattoo. Okay. Now, Mars's sextile to Neptune, it is exact on Wednesday and actually goes exact between 5:53 and 6:23 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we're really close to that whenever we get to this evening period. Mars, 25 degrees, 57 minutes. Neptune, 25:58. Like, we've been feeling this for a couple of days now. It just goes the most exact in the evening time. And again, the sun is building a square to Uranus all day. It doesn't go exact. We just have this energy of rapid, sudden changes that are coming through that can be very much quickly cemented into something long-term. Now, the real effect of Venus trine Uranus is not everybody is going to be able to reach out to somebody and it get met with well reception. And this kind of takes us into the energy of these next transits that I want to talk about. The next transits are exact on Thursday, on the 8th. But the human effect is some of this is going to play out late Wednesday evening. For others, it's going to happen, Thursday morning. And we're going to start with this one right here. So between 12:30 and 2:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to sextile Neptune. Simultaneously, between 1 and 3 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is in this conjunction to Mars. So that's the one that you can see the most. Here's Mars, here's the moon, here's Neptune. Some of us are going to encounter a disruption. We are going to encounter an accident. We are going to encounter something that has a physical effect. And this disruptive energy can play out as like that negative side as to whatever could have occurred with Venus trine Uranus. This is the discovery of a physical effect. Not everybody's going to discover a physical effect that's going to be negative. Some of us are going to see somebody celebrating. That's a physical effect. I'm like, oh, look at you. So what have you been doing all night? I got high. And I'm celebrating. I'm enjoying myself. I'm trying to come to terms with something. The discovery of an action or desire and the effects that has been had from it. But there's something here about discovering something, discovering someone that has had a disruption, that has had some type of physical activity. This can also lead to a restless night with the moon's conjunction to Mars. We can also have very active dreams, given this is in the overnight hours. So again, disruptive action type energy. Again, restless energy. We're feeling compelled to do some things. And some of us just got told with the Venus conjunction to the moon in the trine to Uranus, that supportive energy is like, you should take this action. You should do something new. And you didn't actually take the action on Wednesday. You're taking it on Thursday. You're taking it while the sun is in the square. So this can right here just be that restless mental energy of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how this is going to go. And our minds can just be overwhelmingly busy from the energy. Don't be surprised. But when it comes to Thursday, is busy. It's mentally been busy. We've had restless energy these last few days. It's going to continue to be restless. We're going to be continuously vibrating through parts of the day, and our awareness of something is going to change as we go from Wednesday into Thursday. Now, after the moon's conjunction to Mars, technically speaking, the moon is going to go void, and the moon is actually going to enter Aquarius at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, so 8 a.m. exact. Between 8 and 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Pluto. Given we just had a Mercury-Pluto conjunction, and we're moving towards this new moon, again, we can encounter somebody or something that has changed. We can encounter the next round of something tied to a past fear or a past trauma. We can be doing the next layer of the events that tie back to the weekend, tie back to Monday and Tuesday. Some of us are just going to encounter somebody that can trigger us, just can trigger a fear. Or some of us are going to encounter somebody that is like abusing power, and it can make us aware we have to make some kind of change. This right here feels like a discovery, but it doesn't feel raw, brand new, given everything else that's gone on. Now, the other thing that has happened in the overnight hours, just a few hours before this, was the sun's exact square to Uranus. That went exact between 4:42 and 5:04 a.m. With the sun square Uranus and the moon Pluto conjunction happening simultaneously the way that they are, this discovery of something can lead to, again, a shift in independence. Uranus is newly direct. The sun is moving towards Uranus. We can be very, very aware that we are making out-of-the-box changes this week. And we have to do something new. And we have to take new steps in a new direction. This can feed into that. This can cement more of that energy into our mind. And again, whatever we're doing, whatever is starting this week, whatever is unfolding, whatever is about to launch is long-term. Mars and Neptune are still in their sextile. So we can still be like, feel very much with like a desire to handle something, a desire to make these changes. We're more likely to accept these changes this week, even though we don't like change all the time. There is an energy here towards setting into something very, very new. Okay. After the moon's conjunction to Pluto, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Mercury. This one's interesting to me because the way it's kind of going throughout the day. The moon's conjunction to Mercury can be felt the most between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And there's some element of this that, again, it's talking about the recent events. It's talking about where we're going to go next. It's talking about the possibility. It is talking about where we are seeking independence. We have to be more flexible in our mindset, and that's not easy to do when you have so much fixed energy at play. So whatever flexibility and wherever we're adapting, wherever we're changing something, again, it is meant to be for the long term. Again, we can also be dealing with those technology things, you know, having to upgrade our software or something in the network. I'm not hiding that part. I'm being very realistic. But this can also be an energy that kind of bridges us to what's going to be happening over the weekend. So there can be just kind of the acceptance of a decision whenever it comes to the moon's conjunction to Mercury kind of playing out right here. So we're accepting an idea. We're accepting the change. We're letting more people know of this new strategy, this new plan, this new beginning. We can also be encountering something that requires us to be like having a very specific conversation about travel whenever it comes to Mercury here too. Long-term decisions that can be tied to travel, commute, or your car, because I'm saying commute. So like your actual like physical, tangible vehicle. I don't feel like these energies here are heavy. I'm just looking at the fact that we're going through this energy while we're going through that Sun-Uranus square. So again, we have to be, whatever we're working through, whatever we're communicating, whatever we're planning, whatever we're strategizing, This is long-term energy. This is a part of that new turnaround, this new beginning that's coming together because we're getting closer to the new moon. Okay. Again, moon conjunct Mercury, we hear it filled out the most between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then later in the evening, the moon is going to square Jupiter, and that is going to go the most exact between 8 and 10 p.m. Here's the moon, 8 degrees, 24 minutes, squaring Jupiter. It is just past its exact square with at 9:30 p.m. This is a questioning of our hope, our faith, our desire of what's going to come next. Remember, Mars and Neptune are still in their sextile. Neptune is in Jupiter's sign. So there can be a questioning of our optimism. We can be telling somebody and answering the questions about what decisions we are making. Given that Mercury and Jupiter are starting their square while this is going on, I do still feel like there's something about this part of the energy that doesn't necessarily play out in this moment. It's going to play out more towards the weekend, but there's an element here of just like talking about what we're about to do, talking about what's about to happen, talking about what we're accepting, where our hopes are, where our faith is, what we feel we've been feeling compelled to do. And there is this building optimism in this energy. As we start to get into the later part of the week, we're going to go from the restless energy that the week started with to a more optimistic, hopeful, happier energy as we get to the weekend. Okay. So after the moon square to Jupiter, there's not a whole lot going on whenever it comes to the 8th. We're going to go ahead and get into the 9th. The 9th is not as busy energetically and transit wise as Thursday, but there's still a lot going on. So the Sun and Uranus, their square is separating all day. Mercury and Jupiter, their square is building all day. Mars and Neptune are still in their sextile. It is also separating all day. So we're still going through like a continuous flow of existing energy of how we're wanting some things to play out. And all of this energy that we've been going through this week is leading us into the new moon. So the moon is going to square Uranus roughly between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Got this now at 2:30. Here's the moon, 19 degrees, 6 minutes, squaring Uranus, 19 degrees and 10 minutes. So we have this exact square of something unexpected, exciting. We get that phone call, we get a job offer, we're getting something coming through. This again, we have this uncanny, unexpected energy that's meant to come through. And we are in a week where we need to expect the unexpected. The new moon is going to perfect just afterwards at 4:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm just going to bump this up to 5:30. That's going to be close enough. Here's the moon. Here's the sun. Again, perfected at 4:59. I've got it at 5:30. This is a new moon while Mercury is perfecting its square to Jupiter. This is a new moon that is in a square to Uranus. And we've already had a few days of Uranian transits that have led to this. So I feel like there's energy all week that's building into what we're cementing into something new. The newness can, in the human effect, take place anytime this week. But the new moon's transit-wise is Friday. So we have newness, new things, unexpected things, uncanny things. A new independence, a new direction, a new energy that's very much playing out at any point throughout this week. But the new moon actually perfects 4:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, Friday afternoon. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of excitement. The heart pounding through the chest and yay, this is going to go so great. And given again, the sun is in the square to Uranus. So this can be a boost to our ego and a boost to our confidence. The sun is in the higher authority. And it's in Uranus's sign. It's in Aquarius. So we're far more aware of where certain things have not gone in our direction, but how they're going to go now, how they're going to go next. And for some of us, this is a really exciting week. But for others, not all of us like the new, so it might not be exciting at all. You might be terrified. But we have new energy that is meant to come through this week. Okay. Get this into Saturday. After the new moon and after the square to Uranus, technically speaking, the moon is void. So whatever energy that we are dealing with as we go through the day on Friday, like once we get into evening time, it's just like a continuous feed of that energy. It's a continuous flow. We go into the next morning. And what's been interesting to me, Mercury is going to square Jupiter between 7:22 and 7:36 a.m. Central Standard Time. Okay. So here's Mercury, 8 degrees, 23 minutes. Here's Jupiter, 8 degrees, 23 minutes. Perfect square right there. While this square is perfecting, the moon is going to enter Pisces. The moon is going to enter Jupiter's sign. So I'm going to bump this an hour just because you guys know I don't bump this by minute. It gets annoying that way. Here we go. 1 hour later, here's the moon. 0 degrees, 30 minutes. Again, Mercury square Jupiter. The moon enters Jupiter's sign. The plan, the strategy, the things that are being communicated, the things that we need to work through, the healing that must be had, the optimism, the planning, and everything that we're about to do is now very much focused on what Jupiter's needs are. The moon is in Jupiter's sign. What does Pisces rule in your chart? Because that's what's going to be the focus. One, we're days away from Pisces season starting. Two, we just had a new moon in one of Saturn's signs, and there's Saturn in Pisces. And by the end of the day on the 10th, the moon is going to conjoin Saturn in Pisces. So some of the communication, some of the planning, some of the conversation, some of the focus in this hopeful, optimistic energy is also about how we fix, heal, and overcome, how we move forward with things next, where our desire for things are going to be next, where our hope will continue, how we hope this is going to go. A lot of this is very much about the hopeful energy, again, healing energy. This new beginning can allow us this opportunity. This new beginning can allow us to take this next step. This new beginning can allow for us to fix our shit. This new beginning is me on my own, but I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm ready for that. Because again, that new moon was in a square to Uranus. There's a lot of long-term energy at play. Long-term effects. The other thing about what's going on right here is once the moon goes into Pisces, Mercury squaring to Jupiter is going to be asking, well, how do you feel about all this? How do you feel about this change? How do you feel about what you're doing? How do you feel about me? How do you feel about us? How do you feel about divorce? How do you feel about me and dad separating? Like, how do you feel? And as the moon goes into Pisces, while Mercury is in that square to Jupiter, again, there's a lot of emotional conversation of how we go from here, what happens next, how we are feeling, and what we desire. Because Mars is still separating from its sextile to Neptune. So we have elements tied to desire still in the conversation and how we do things next. That's be a big part of the energy. There can be a lot of melancholy while the moon is in Pisces, a lot of floods of emotion, but also a lot of hopeful energy. And as we get into the evening time, simultaneously, the moon will conjoin Saturn and sextile Jupiter. Again, the moon is in Jupiter's sign. By the time we get to the evening's energy, we can be very much accepting the role, accepting a position, accepting the responsibility, expressing a decision. Some of us are we are the Saturnian person and we're having to express it to another person. We're letting somebody know what we've decided. Some of us, we're the moon and we're telling an authority figure, we're telling an elder, Mom, Dad, I'm moving out. We're telling them what we plan to do. We've spent all this time these last few days, like, yeah, I'm moving out. I'm moving in this direction. I'm going to move closer to my new job. It's 2 states away. I can't live here and work there. And there's coming to terms with something. Big, small, it doesn't matter. Some of us are having to accept responsibility of something, accept the reality of something, and that can still have weighted emotions to it. What I think is really interesting, once we have this Mercury Jupiter square, and I did say this in the month ahead forecast, and I'm saying it again now because the moon is making this conjunction to Saturn. This is when Saturn leaves shadow. That means some of these things that have gone on this week can tie back to stuff that we wanted to do last summer, that we were trying to do last spring to summer. June is the main time. May, June is the timeline I'm talking about, that we weren't ready for, that things weren't prepared, that things hadn't lined out. But now that we're in a different energy, they are more in alignment and there is more support, and we feel more compelled that these new ways of doing things can work out. And for a lot of us, again, we're going into a whole new energy because we just had a new moon in Saturn sign. Yes, Uranus' sign, but Uranus just turned direct. So I've already covered that part, but also Saturn sign. When it comes to Aquarius, the traditional ruler is Saturn. The modern ruler is Uranus. By the end of this week, our awareness of how we take steps forward in a new way, our new desires, our new responsibility, our new long-term goals are cementing in. Through no other transit that I've spoke about this week, right here, just after the new moon, as Saturn, the co-ruler of that new moon, is leaving shadow. There are new directions and new things at play. Okay. We're going to get into Sunday. Mercury and Jupiter are still in their square, but it's separating. No big deal. That means we're still in some levels of the continuous flow of energy. There's some little things that we've talked about over the course of this week that are lingering into Sunday. Sunday is a carryover of energy day. That's okay. For a lot of people, we're going to get to Sunday, and Sunday's kind of an energetic hangover day. Like, I don't want to do a whole lot. And that wouldn't surprise me. The thing is, when it comes to Sunday, there's not a whole lot going on. So that's a good thing. We got 2 small little baby transits, super small, super, super small. One happening between 1 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I've got it at 2:30. The moon at 19 degrees and 26 minutes is in a sextile to Uranus. Some of us have just made the decision to do something new, to go in a new direction. And what do we need to do? I need to research this company more. I need to do just a little bit of digging. I need to talk about something. I need to look into something, and we can begin a little bit of a research mode. We need to know more. Mercury isn't still in a square to Jupiter, so we need to know more. No big deal. The other thing that can be kind of coming up is more along the lines of like whenever you're going to people's houses and you're starting to get together and you're starting to have lunch and you're doing stuff, is you're telling other people about this week. Dude, this week has been crazy. So much is going on. Oh, yeah, me too. And we start talking about what the hell just happened. We are starting to talk about, yeah, I'm going to take this new job. Oh, yeah, I'm moving 2 states over. Oh, yeah, me and my girl just got back together. We haven't been talking in a while. Oh, yeah, I finally got to hang out with my brother. I finally got to see this person. I finally got to do this. I didn't expect to do this, but it happened. It was like the most serendipitous energy possible. And we have just this fun little moment, not heavy at all. And again, we are in a carryover energy of either researching something a little bit deeper or telling another person the unexpected, exciting news. We're getting some type of information, something that might even help us with something later on. We don't necessarily know why or when, but we're learning something in the moment. Clue in. The other little baby transit, and I'm calling it a baby transit, is later in the evening. And I think this is great. I think this one is great for the Super Bowl. And that is between 9:30 and 11:30 p.m. So I'm just past this exact. Venus is going to sextile, baby transit, the moon. Venus sextile the moon, while the moon is making a conjunction to Neptune. Now, the moon-Neptune conjunction is not exact on Sunday. It actually happens in the overnight hours going into Monday. So some of this energy is just like fun-loving and celebrating and heartfelt. It's connected, it's vibing. We're trying to enjoy an experience. This is the great transit for watching the Super Bowl. Great Super Bowl halftime show. This type of thing. Super not heavy. Very fun. Very exciting. Talking to people about like some upcoming energy and some of the things that have gone on. Telling people things that they've never heard before. Super just like amazing type things. Like, oh yeah, we're going to go do this and we're going to go here and we're going to just there's something fantastical and amazing and fun and connected and vibing. And I really like the energy whenever it comes to Sunday. I'm all about Sunday evening. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be great. And I think it's a great freaking energy, again, for the Super Bowl. So I'm really looking forward to the end of the week. So as this week continues, understand that there's meant to be something new. The dynamic of something in our lives, something that has been fixed in some way, whether it's a small mundane thing to a big thing, it's meant to change. Some of us are going to go into a very rapid flow of building a momentum towards a change. And by the time we get to the end of the week, it's going to feel very natural. Or it's by the time of the end of the week that it's going to be setting in for more people that they're suddenly capturing on to what you're doing. It's suddenly capturing their attention. Like, oh, hey, what's going on here? And given the way that so many of these transits are prolonged and they feed into one on top of the other and they layer themselves, again, I feel like there's a great portion of this week that it's just one continuous flow of a situation, one continuous thing that once it completely sets in, all of those individual days won't feel like a continuous flow. It's going to feel like everything happened all at once, especially whenever you go, 5-6 months down the road and look back like, oh yeah, it was just one big thing. But it's not. There's a randomness and there's a whole continuous thing. And I really mean it when I say for a lot of people this week, expect the unexpected. There can be things that completely blindside you, but the outcome and the effect can be healing and hopeful. Some of you are riding a continuous wave of energy that again ties back to either that Mercury retrograde or the Pluto Sun conjunction. And really, that doesn't surprise me because I said since the beginning of December, whatever happened in the Mercury retrograde directly impacted the Sun-Pluto conjunction. And there's a reason that whole timeline was necessary to show us where we needed to make a long-term change. The Sun-Pluto energy was both an ending and a new beginning of long-term change. We start this week with a new conjunction to Pluto. Mercury will make its conjunction to Pluto. That's how we start the week. That feels like for a lot of people, it's the next round of whatever already occurred. But in other ways, it feels like the next level of personal power and strength and transformation. How you see that in your personal life is going to be different for everybody. I had a lot of people that through that Mercury retrograde going into the Sun Pluto, you guys had hardships that came through in your relationship. And many of you realize that your relationship is over. Your business partnerships are over. Some element of something in your life is over. And now you need to work towards something new. Some of you are distraught by the idea of that because you've had so much time in said place with said person. And I understand that. But everybody and everything in our life comes into our life for a reason or a season. What that reason is, that's what we have those synastry charts for. That's what we have those other elements for. Some people are karmic contracts. Some people come in for a reason because they are the element that breaks up something. And there's been a breaking in some of the energy. The lies, the fraud, and the deception have led to a certain type of action and desire that needs to play out now. We're moving into another direction. And I know that scares the shit out of a lot of people. I don't like change. I don't like new. Babies, new is necessary. Change is necessary. Change is inevitable. Fighting change is just fighting nature. You can't control the wind. You can't control the storms. You can't control it. You have to work with it. These transits change every day. Change is inevitable. You can't control it. You have to learn to work with it. That's why I read the way that I do. Is because I see the pattern of how it leads us to those changes. And once you can understand that pattern, it makes it easier to accept it into your life and accept it into your heart. This is a week of change. For some of us, we're going to have a very big change, one massive change. It's going to have a long-term effect. For others, we're going to have a set of like small changes that work into like this one big dynamic. It really kind of comes down to how all those little transits are laying out. Some of us are going to finally be able to take a leap of faith this week. We're going to be able to take some type of action. Feed this desire to fix something, to overcome something, to do a certain thing. We are meant to experience these changes. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly in the moment, all of this speaks to where we're going next and this next cycle of our lives. And not everybody in our lives that we've had for so long belongs with us in the next cycle, because many of them hinder us and they hold us back. They are not on the same vibration that you are on now. If you've been doing the healing work, the inner work, and you've been on this journey for a while, you are not on the same vibration as people anymore. And you know you're not. So why fight change? This change again is inevitable. And it's a great week for change. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'm super excited for this month. I'm excited for this week. I said in the month ahead forecast, I said that this is either going to be the longest month or the fastest. And there doesn't seem to be an in between. I really want to kind of hear what people think by the end of the month, like how this is going to go for them. But I feel like we're very much cementing into something that's going to be long term. And I'm excited for everybody. So I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody soon. Oh, and my Facebook Lives this week, because I didn't say this in the intro, will be Monday and Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I love and appreciate you all. I'll talk to you very, very soon. Subscribe.